So today we're going to be talking about miscellaneous geometry theorems, but before that, homework. The homework, so problem 1, Ziggy recently constructed an origami cube with a side length of 3 inches, and she wants to decorate each square inch with a different color of washi tape. How many different types of washi tape does she need? So in the chat, type your answer, whichever answer you got, or you can unmute and say your answer. So, okay, I have one answer in the chat. There are 4 of you here, and I don't want to feed into the homework, but if you can solve it on the fly, then that would also be great. So I know two of you haven't done the homework, so there should be at least one more answer in the chat. So, okay then. So the end, yeah. Okay, so firstly, what is the surface area of a cube? So yeah, the problems from the homework. Put your, we're just doing the problems for the homework. So in the chat, put your answer for the problem. So yeah, a lot of people just entered. So yeah, okay, yeah. Pull up your homework if you did it. If you didn't do it, have a piece of paper next to you so you can solve it on your own, like while we're doing it. Hopefully you're able to do that, but we might be going through these quickly. So yeah. Okay, so first we have to solve for the surface area of a cube. So the surface area would be the sum of the areas of the sides. So we get 3 inches by 3 inches with area of one side multiplied by 6 faces. So we get 54 inches squared in total. So every single square inch of the surface area has to have a different piece of washi tape. So that means that Ziggy uses 54 different types. So good job, Charles and Wanda.
That kind of seems unnecessary, though.
I mean, let Ziggy do what she wants, you know? Okay, so this is a question that a lot of people missed. Janine is filling up a foam pit with cubes of volume 0.125 feet cubed, and the foam pit has a measurement of 5 feet by 7 feet by 17.25 feet. What is the maximum amount of foam cubes that she can put in the pit if the cubes are not squished? So in the chat, put your answer. I know a lot of you solved it in a way where you got the wrong answer, and it seems like the obvious way to solve it. However, that is not the way to solve it. Okay, in the chat I have 2 answers. There are 8 of you here, so I have 3 answers now. Okay, does one more person want to answer in the chat? Okay, I guess not. So, okay, so basically, if I have a cube of volume 0.125 feet, what is the side length of the cube? First, in the chat, type, what is the side length of the cube with a volume of 0.125 feet? So, 0.125, not 125. Right, it would be the cube root of 0.125. So what would that be? It would be much easier if you guys would express 0.125 as a fraction and then find the cube root. So in the chat. Okay, so a lot of people are putting 0.005, and that is incorrect. So basically, 0.125 is 1/8, right? I don't know if you guys know that, but it is 1/8. So what number multiplies by itself 3 times to find, to get 1/8? Yeah. So what number multiplies by itself 3 times to get 1/8? Yes, so 1/2. So good job, Wanda. Okay, so we get 1/2 is the side length of the cube. So now what we have to do is we have to find out how many of these side lengths can fit into each dimension. So then we do 5 divided by 1/2. Oh, okay, yeah. We do 5 divided by 1/2 and get 10. We get 7 divided by 1/2 and get 14, and then we get 17.25 divided by 1/2. And because 1/2 does not go into it an equal amount of times, like 1/2 doesn't fit exactly into 17.25, we round down to the nearest integer. So we get 34. So when we multiply these out together, we do not get the answer you guys got, which was, what answer did you guys get?
4830.
Yeah, okay, you guys do not get 4830, but 4760. So make sure, so this is how you're supposed to solve for how many of a certain shape or object fit into a certain like box or whatever.
Just wondering, after the homework, are we going to start the point system again?
Yeah, after the homework, we're going to do the point system. And okay, so I was thinking as a more like, as a better prize, you know, perhaps in like the Google Classroom, I could say like you guys were like, whoever wins is like the winner for the week, and I'll say like something good about you in the Google Classroom. So, you know, yeah. Okay, so yeah, this is a 34. So 10 by 14 by 34 is equal to our answer. So we can just see it over here. And yeah. Okay, now this is the other, did anyone have any questions? Oh yeah, we can have a podium, like top 3. Okay, so problem number 3. An ice cream cone is made up of a cone-shaped wafer and a hemisphere of ice cream. Find the total volume of both the cone and the ice cream. Express your answer as a common fraction in terms of pi. So a lot of people had problems with finding the radius, so they left this blank. And just as a hint, the hemisphere has a height that is equal to the radius. So to find the radius, you would just do the height of the total of the cone minus, you do the height of the total thing minus the height of the cone. So we get yes. So in the chat, the radius would be 2. So let's first solve for the volume of the hemisphere. So in the chat, either type the like the volume formula for a hemisphere, or type the actual volume for the hemisphere. Okay, yeah. In the chat, Shreya said 16/3 pi, which is correct. So in the chat, someone said half pi r squared. Remember that this is volume, so it's going to have r cubed in the answer. And that too, it would be 1/2 multiplied by 4/3 pi r cubed, since 4/3 pi r cubed is the volume of a sphere. So we get 16/3 pi, which, as Charles said, is 5 1/3 pi. So let me just write that down. Okay, 16 pi over 3. Okay, so now solve for the volume of the cone. So in okay, so for the hemisphere, you were solving for the area of a sphere and not a hemisphere, Charles. So yeah, make sure you're, so yeah, so for the volume of a cone, it would be base times height times 1/3. That's okay if you were late. So okay, wait. To answer Charles' question, he said he did the volume of a hemisphere, but the volume for a hemisphere would be 2/3 pi r cubed, right? So you do, so r cubed would be 2 to the power of 3, which is 8, And then 2/3 times pi times 8 would be 16/3 pi. So that's the volume of the hemisphere. No, we already divided by 2, since the volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. So we get 16.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that means we have gotten 16 pi over 3 for this hemisphere. So yeah. Okay. So now for the volume of the cone. So the radius is the same as that of the hemisphere. So using the fact that the radius is 2, do you have a question? Yeah, so that's 16/3 pi. Yeah, okay. Now for the volume, okay, wait, no, Charles in the chat already answered for the cone. Okay, but the cone's volume is also 16/3 pi. So we get, so how we get it is we do 1/3. Oh, okay. So for the cone, we do 1/3 pi r squared, which is the base times the height, which is what we are doing when we are solving for the cone. And I saw someone in the chat said that it's 1/3 base times height, which it is. So we do 1/3 pi times r squared, and we know that the radius is 2, so we get 4, right? And then we multiply that by the height, which we are also given as 4. So we're given, okay, so we're given 16 pi over 3 as the volume for the cone. So when you add together 16 pi over 3 and 16 pi over 3, you get 32 pi over 3. This is a common fraction because it cannot be simplified further. So that means that our answer is 32 pi over 3. So that is our final answer. Does anyone have any questions about that? Because a lot of people missed it or did not attempt it in the homework. So does everyone understand, or do you have any questions? Okay, so
No questions.
okay, so 3 people or 2.5 people have no questions. Okay, 3 people have no questions. Yeah, okay, so 4 people have no questions. Okay, so that's great. There are 10 of you, so I'm hoping that the rest of you who did not answer in the chat have no questions either. Remember that it's expected of you to participate, so if you're not participating, then that's bad, Okay, so problem 4. A regular hexagon has sides of length 6. Find the area of the hexagon. So as it's shown on the screen, a hexagon is made of 6 equilateral triangles. So we can solve for its area by solving for the area of each of the triangles. So in the chat, type what the area of the triangle would be. Or no, before you type that, type what the formula for finding the area of the triangle would be. Because I do know that some people sometimes get it wrong. Yes, so I see one. So Charles in the chat got the correct thing. So it would be s squared square root 3 over 4, or s over 2, that whole thing squared multiplied by square root 3. So and by the way, s is just our way of saying side. It's just a variable that stands for side. So plugging in our side length over here, we get 6 over 2, which is 3 squared radical 3, right? So that means we get 9 radical 3. And then we have 6 of these triangles. So we get 54 radical 3, or 54 root 3. So we just multiply 9 radical 6, or sorry, I cannot write. Okay, we multiply 9 radical 3 by 6, and we get 54 radical 3, or root 3 as our answer, or square root 3.
What's it? Root 3 and radical 3 and square root 3 are all the same, right?
Right. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so base times height over 2 does work here. However, you're going to have to solve for the height using 30, 60, 90 triangles. And we did learn how to do that with 30, 60, 90 triangles. You do, so the base would be, so this part would be 3, like this length would be 3, okay, and then this length would be 3 radical 3. So technically, so the base would be 6 and the height would be 3 radical 3. So you'd be able to do base times height here. However, I do know that many people mess up while finding base times height, or while finding the height for an equilateral triangle, because you guys get a little bit mixed up with which side is which, like which leg is which. So yes, you could do base times height divided by 2. However, only do it if you are 100% sure of what you are doing, because it's easy to mess up. Okay. Yeah. So a regular hexagon has an area of 54 radical 3.
I just wanted to say I have to go at I have to go in like 10 minutes since I have an eye checkup. So
Okay, yeah, that's okay. This will be recorded for you to watch after class.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, so problem number 5. So we did not get to Euler's formula yesterday, so I shall just explain this rather than asking you guys to explain it or asking you guys to do it step by step, because I do know that many of you probably did not look at the slides after class. So yeah. Okay, so first let's write out Euler's formula. So Euler's formula is vertices plus faces are equal to the edges plus 2. So knowing this, and we are also given that the number of faces is 2/3 the number of vertices. And we're also given that there are 18 edges, right? So we can now say that this is 18, and we can say that the faces are 2/3 of the vertices, right? So that means that we get v plus 2/3 v is equal to 18 plus 2, which when we simplify that is 5/3 vertices. Yeah, well, it says 5/3 vertices are equal to 20, meaning that there are 12 vertices. But we're looking for how many faces it has. So we do 12 times 2/3 because the number of faces is 2/3 the number of vertices, and we get 8. You can also plug in 12 back into Euler's formula and get 12 plus faces are equal to 18 plus 2, and you would still get the same answer. So that means that the object has 8 faces. Since, again, we did not cover Euler's formula in class, please ask any questions you have, because you probably have some if you did not look at the slides yesterday. So please ask them. Or in the chat if you have no questions. Again, say you have no questions. Euler's formula basically just relates the edges, the number of faces, and the number of vertices together. And it's actually really hard to get. It, like, I don't know what you mean by what does it do, but it basically just says that the vertices plus the faces minus the edges, or the vertices plus the faces is equal to the edges plus 2. So yeah. It doesn't exactly do anything, like, I do not know how to, yeah. Okay, so hopefully that answered your question. Yeah, okay, it did. So, yeah, it's just vertices plus faces are equal to the number of edges plus 2. And remember, since all polyhedrons follow this rule, if you ever forget it, make sure, like, the only thing you really need to remember is that there's a 2 in there somewhere, because you can just use, like, a cube as your way of figuring it out again, because like I usually forget formulas like this, which don't really seem to have any application, but whenever it comes up, I remember, oh, a cube has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 edges, and then I remember it has 8 vertices, and then I remember it has 6 sides, and then I know that there's a 2 in there, like adding or subtracting a 2, so I realized that its vertices plus sides are equal to the edges plus 2. So that's a way to remember it without specifically remembering the formula. Like you can re-find it every time if you wish, because that's forgetting things is really easy. So yeah. Yes, so vertices plus bases minus 2 would equal to the edges, because like any way you can like manipulate this equation will give you any way you can manipulate it algebraically will give you another completely valid equation, which you could also use. So yes, vertices plus faces would equal, minus 2 would equal to the number of edges. And remember, don't say sides, because you use sides when it's polygons, but when it's polyhedrons, you use faces, the word faces. That's it. Hopefully that clarifies any questions you all have. And if you have any questions, ask them. And if you do not, we shall move on. So, okay, I do not see any questions in the chat, so I'm assuming that that means you guys understand what I'm talking about and you aren't confused. Okay.
Yeah, I got no questions.
Okay, that's good. So angle bisector theorem is what we're going to talk about today first. So first we'll be covering angle bisectors and trisectors. So what is an angle bisector? It just divides an angle in half. So in the diagram, which is going to appear, BD is the bisector of ABC. So BD is the bisector of ABC because because ABD is equal to DBC, or because ABD times 2 is equal to ABC. Both of them mean the same thing. So this is what an angle bisector is. But in triangles, we have this thing called the angle bisector theorem, which says that, so we have this thing called the angle bisector theorem, and it relates the sides created by that angle bisector. So we know, so the angle bisector theorem states that AC, which is this side, divided by CD, which is this side, is equal to is equal to AB, which is this side, over BD, which is this side, right? And although it's beyond the scope of this class, here is the link to an explanation of why this works and how it's gotten. So if you want to look at it after class, that's totally up to you. But basically, remember that AC over CD is AB over BD, and any way you manipulate it algebraically will work. So so basically this side to this side, so the ratio of this side to this side is equal to the ratio of this side to this side. So basically these form a ratio to one another. So it's beyond the scope of this lesson, and on this slide is a link to a website which explains it really well. I'm not very good at explaining proofs because most of the time it requires higher algebra or higher math and stuff. So yeah, however, this uses similar triangles which are used in geometry. Although these are not the similar triangles themselves, they do form the same ratio. So that doesn't really help much. However, I can't really explain it because it's a proof. So yeah, sorry about that. But again, you can look at that after class, and hopefully it will clarify any questions you have. Yeah. Okay. So let us try a question, like an example. So in triangle ABC, line segment AD bisects A, and point D is on side BC. Side AB, yes, so the angle bisector always divides an angle in half. So for example, if I was taking the angle bisector of 70 degrees, then it would divide the angle into 35 and 35 degrees. So it will always divide it in half, yes. So in triangle ABC, line segment AD bisects A, and point D is on side BC. Side AB has a length of 18, and side BD has a length of 12, and side AC has a length of 6. What is the length of side CD? So I do not expect you guys to know how to solve this right immediately. So first, what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to draw a diagram. So we know that AB has a side length of 18. So AB has a side length AB. Okay, wait, sorry. Okay, AB has a side length of 18. Let me just draw this out. Okay, AB has a side length 18. AD, okay, God. I'm sorry, that was the next question. I did not mean to go to that. So we're given A, B, C, D, right? So we draw a diagram for all geometry problems unless we 100% know what we're doing, and even then it's great to draw a diagram. So we're given that AD bisects angle A, so that means that this is equal to this. And point D is on side BC. Side AB, so this, has a length of 18, and side BD has a length of 12, and side AC has a length of 6. What is the length of side CD? So using the ratios that are angle bisector theorem, we get 18 over 12 is equal to 6 over, and then let's say CD is x, right? So then we can, on the left side, we get 3 over 2 is equal to 6 over x, and then we multiply both sides by x and divide by 3/2, and we get x is equal to 12 over 3, which is equal to 4. So yes, the correct answer is 4. So good job in the chat. Okay, so that is good that you all got it correct. So yeah. Again, does anyone have any questions? Okay. So in the chat, I see that. Okay. So how did I get 4 again? So we get AB over BD. So the angle bisector theorem says AB over BD equals AC over CD, right? So you get 18. So you set up the ratios or the equation, right? So you get 18 over 12 because AB over BD is 18 over 12 is equal to AC over CD, which is 6 over x, because just to make it shorter for us to write out, I named CD x, right? So we get 18 over 12, which is also equal to 3/2, is equal to 6 over x. So now we can multiply both sides by x, and we get 3x over 2 is equal to 6, and then we multiply both sides by 2/3, and we get x is equal to 12 over 3, which is equal to 4. So that means that x is equal to 4, and since x was what we were looking for, the length of side CD was what we were looking for, that means that our answer is 4. So does that help? Or is there something? Okay. So I shall clear my drawings if no one else has any questions. And yeah. Okay. So this is a harder example. So because these are examples, I will not be counting points unless you guys want me to. Do you guys want me to count points for the examples, or would you rather have me only count them for the problems? Okay, so I see one person does not want it to count and one person does. The reason, okay, yeah, only problems. The reason I do not want these examples to count is because they are, these are trying to help you learn. So these are where you're supposed to learn the content. So it helps other people who are not, who take a longer time to understand it or stuff, understand it before we actually try to make it worth points. Okay, so I will give you guys points if you contribute a step, but not if you get the answer. So in triangle ABC, lines AD and AE trisect angle BAC. Find the sum of x and y. So in the chat, tell me, using the angle bisector theorem, what would you do? Or where do you think we should start? And remember, trisect means divide the angle into 3 equal parts. So that means that angle CAD is equal to angle DAE is equal to angle EAB. Yes, we will use the angle bisector theorem, but first we need to figure out a situation in which this works, right? So, okay, so someone said that AC over CD is equal to AB over BE. However, that would not be the case. Okay, do not get the answers immediately. We're trying to divide this into steps. Okay, so here's the thing. A lot of you guys are suggesting immediately using the angle bisector theorem, but we need to figure out a situation in which the angle bisector theorem applies. Someone said Pythagorean theorem, but we aren't actually given that AED is a 90-degree angle. It only shows that it's a 90-degree angle, and because we made this diagram, it probably means it's not a 90-degree angle, So, okay, so first find 2 triangles in which there would be an angle bisector. So what are 2 triangles? So name them by their vertices. So what are 2 triangles in this diagram that have a angle bisector? So someone said ACD and ABE. No, those, someone else said ACD and AEB. No, that is not correct, because see here, when we are looking at it, AED and ABE. Okay, someone said ADB and ACE, and yes, that is correct. So 2 people said that. ACD. Okay. I think 2 people said that. So in the chat, and they said it around the same time. So because they have the angle bisector here, right? So we know that this and this are equal. So that means that ACE has an angle bisector, right? This is bisected. And then this is bisected. Yes, we can use the theorem for ACE and ADB using that. So, yeah. Okay, so far, that is the score because both of you guys said it around the same time. So, using this, we divide this into 1 triangle, so AEC. So, using the angle bisector theorem, what would we get? Okay, just set up the equation. So, I see Charles said it in the chat, so that's great. So, we get 16 over 8. Do not solve, please. 16 over 8 is 3y minus 1 over 4, which is equal to 2 equals 3y minus 1 over 4. So yeah, the reason I didn't want you to solve was to give people time to type in the equation. And also, Charles, when you type your answer, private message it to me, because I know that a lot of people take a much longer time than you, and seeing your answer, people might copy. So we multiply by 4 and we get 8 is equal to 3y minus 1, and then you add 1 and then you get 9 is equal to 3y, which means that 3 is equal to y, right? So we have now solved for y. Y is 3. So, okay. So in the chat, now what would the equation for ADB be? ADB for that triangle using angle bisectors, what would it be? So I see one answer. So just set up the equation. You do not need to solve it if other people are trying to do that. Yeah. Okay. So I see Nikita got it. Charles got it. One more person. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. One more person in the chat, private message me the actual equation you'd get. Okay. Yeah. So in the chat, people who have not typed the ratio to me, type it to me so I know that you're there. So far, only 2 people or 3 people have been actively participating. So please, everyone, you know. Yeah, you are one of the people who has been actively participating. Okay, so far, this is our score, you know. So this is our score. So yes, I see. Okay, 21 over. Okay, so yes, we can plug in 3 for x, right? Because we solved it. So what we get right now is 21 over 7, which is equal to 5x minus 3. And because we found x, we get we get 15, 14, 13, 12. Oh wait, sorry. Okay, let me redo that. Okay, we get 21 over 7 is equal to 5x minus 3 over 4, right? We have not solved for x yet. We've only solved for y. Okay, yeah. So we get 3 on the left side, and we get 5x minus 3 over 4 on the right side. 5x minus 3 over 4 on the right side. I shall use a different color. Okay, so we multiply both sides by 4, and we get 12 is equal to 5x minus 3, and then we add 3 to both sides, and then we get 15 is equal to 5x. And that means we solve for x, and we get x is also equal to 3. So when we add these together, since that was what we were looking for, the sum of x and y, we get 3 plus 3, so that would mean that our answer would be 6. So yeah, I see. Yeah, I think, yeah, you got it right first, Charles. I think the person who just messaged me in the chat, I think you got it wrong. We set it up, and we got 3 is x and 3 is y. Because 5x is equal to, 15. So, yeah. Okay, so I know that only 3 people were really participating. Yeah, okay, yeah. 3 plus 3 is 6. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. Okay, so in the chat or unmuting, people who did not answer me, tell me why you did not answer or why you did not, interact during this, because I only had 3 people who were actively participating. Okay, yeah, you answered but didn't get it wrong. Yeah. Okay, so one person answered but then got it wrong, so I'm going to assume that because of that, the equation for x was, the equation for x was this over this is equal to this over this. Okay, so we get 21 over 7 is equal to 5x minus 3 over 4 for our equation. Yeah, it's okay if it takes you some time to do it quickly. You're just learning this. So the equation for y was 3y minus 1 over 4 is equal to 16 over 8. So, okay, that's okay if you were still working, but whenever we're doing these, like, it wasn't very hard to, in the chat, just say the two triangles which you thought would have the angle bisector. So, like, even if you're still working on it, you're expected to contribute to class. And I don't think I saw participation from the person who just messaged me with that. So please, again, I get if you're working, but you still need to, participate. So yeah. Okay, so for people, so I see that I answered one person's question. So does anyone else have any questions? Because again, only 4 of you or 5 of you have been accounted for in terms of participation, and there are 8 of you. So, I'm just wondering what you guys were doing. Okay, yeah. Or if you guys have any questions about, what we're doing. And again, remember, I do have your parents' emails. I can email them if you are consistently not participating at all in class. And I also have the chat saved, so like I know if you have been participating. Like, you can't lie to me. So again, please, please, please participate. This is only gonna help you if you participate. So yeah. Okay. So this just explains what we just did. Oh god. Okay. So since I have had people in the chat ask me if I can just do examples, so so you will get points for contributing steps for these problems because instead of using them as examples, instead of using them as problems, because I do know that some of you still want more practice, right? So you will get points for asking questions or for contributing steps. So question 1, in triangle ABC, let P be a point on BC and let AB equal 20, AC equal 10, and BP equal 20 radical 3 over 3, and CP equal 10 radical 3 over 3. Find the measure of BAP minus CAP. So this might not look like angle bisector theorem, but draw out a diagram, and that will help you a lot. So I shall draw out, okay, so I shall draw out the diagram, and you guys shall tell me what to label, or what to, sorry, so B, C, A, D. Okay, so I'm going to call on people who have not been participating, and I'm going to ask you to solve this, right? So, okay, well, someone just left. Okay, so, the person who I just asked to unmute, like via Zoom, please
Wait,
unmute.
hold on. Wait, for the first question, what does it mean find the measure of BAP, CAP?
It says BAP minus CAP, so measure.
Oh, minus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, so the person who I just asked to unmute,
Okay, where is BAP? Is it?
okay. So angle and triangle ABC, let point P, point P be a point on BC, and let AB equal 20, and AC equal 10, and BP equal 20 radical 3 over 3. And CP equal 10 radical 3 over 3. Find the measure of angle BAP minus CAP minus angle CAP. So okay. So this uses angle bisector theorem. So first things first, what is angle bisector theorem? Like, what does it say in relation to ABC? So it's a ratio. Okay, so it is a ratio. So tell me, what does it say? You can also type it in the chat if you're unsure. Okay. So, are you still here? Okay, yeah, you are. Yeah. Okay. So, what does angle bisector theorem state? In triangle ABC, given that ABP is an angle bisector and PAC is an angle bisector, what would it state? Okay. So I'm going to assume that means that I should just explain it again. So it's AB over BP is equal to AC over CP, right? So find the measure of BAP minus CAP if we were given this, right? So okay, I shall just explain this problem because it's easier said than done. Wait a minute. Okay, sorry about that. So basically, in triangle ABC, let P be a point on BC, and let AB equal 20, so we label this 20, and AC equal 10, and BP equal 20 radical 3 over 3, and CP equal 10 radical 3 over 3. So basically, what we now know, so using angle bisector theorem, 20 over 20 radical 3 over 3 is equal to 10 over 10 radical 3 over 3. So that means that AP must be the bisector of angle A. So that means that when we're trying to find the measure of BAP minus CAP, what would that be? Okay, so someone in the chat or someone on mute and say, what would that be? Okay, no. So if we are using angle bisector theorem, we have established that AP is a bisector because it follows angle bisector theorem. So what would what would BAP minus CAP be equal to? Okay, what is an angle bisector? What is an angle bisector? Yes, but what does an angle bisector do to an angle?
Are you asking us who's doing the question, or are you asking the other people?
Just anyone in general at this point answer.
Okay, angle bisector is something that splits an angle into 2 parts or 3 parts.
Okay, you nearly got that correct. So an angle bisector divides an angle into 2 equal angles, and an angle trisector divides.
Oh yeah, trisector into 3 parts. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So bisector is 2 equal angles. So that would mean that BAP is equal to CAP, since using the angle bisector theorem, we have established that AP is the bisector of angle A. So that means that the measure of BAP minus CAP is equal to 0. So because A minus A, right, where we're saying A is the angle measure, would be equal to 0. So that means that our answer is 0 for number 1. Okay, now I shall call on someone else who has not been participating much. Again, participating much includes if you tell me that like you have been doing the problem, but like you haven't really been putting much in the chat, right? You know? Yeah. Okay. So okay, so the person who I just asked to unmute. So please solve number 2 to the person I asked to unmute.
Okay, so since AB over BD equals AC over CD, 24 divided by 9 equals question mark divided by 12.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you can continue.
Yeah. So 24 divided by 9 simplifies to 8 divided by 3. And so 8 divided by 3 equals question mark divided by 12. And since 12 is 3 times 4, you multiply 4 times 8 and you get 32.
Yes. So that would mean, okay, yeah. So good job. So that means that 32 is the value of the question mark. So good job. And yes, that is our answer. And okay, again, there are many people who have not been participating. So in the chat, especially if you're one of those people who has not been participating and you're one of the people who has not answered, tell me if you have any questions. And yeah, on the first question, it's more of using the angle bisector theorem to prove something rather than actually using the angle bisector theorem. So yeah. So in the chat, do you have any questions? And if so, you can unmute. If you do not have any questions, again, in the chat, say, I have no questions or something to that extent.
I have a question. Can you explain the first question?
Okay, yeah. So for the triangle, right? So we're given that if something is an angle bisector, then, so if this is an angle bisector, if this orange line is a bisector, angle bisector, right? Then we are told that A over B would be equal to C over D, right? So in this case, AB over AC, which would be A over B, is equal to 2. And AB over BP, which is equal to 3 over radical 3, is A over B. And then AC over CP, which is equal to C over D, is also equal to 3 over radical 3. So that means that the ratios are shared. So that means that the orange line is an angle bisector, since it does fulfill the angle bisector theorem. So that means that the measure of these two angles that I'm about to draw, so the measure of this brown angle is equal to the measure of this brown angle. So that means that when we're trying to, and basically what the measure of BAP minus CAP is asking of us is saying what is the brown angle minus the other brown angle. And because those brown angles are equal, that means that, and since two values, if they're equal, if they're subtracted from one another, you get 0. So that means the measure of BAP minus.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I am so dumb.
Oof. Okay, yeah. But you can use the angle bisector theorem to prove that something is a bisector. You can also use if a triangle fulfills it, and there's an angle, and there's something dividing the angle, and the ratios fulfill the angle bisector theorem, then that means that that line that divides the angle is the angle bisector. However, if it does not fulfill it, that means it's not an angle bisector. Yeah. So both sides are equal, and that is why we figured that since it fulfills the angle bisector theorem, it's an angle bisector. Yes. Okay, so does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any questions? Okay. So I see one person has no questions. Okay, 2 people have no questions. 3 people have no questions. 4 people have no questions. Okay, so I guess that is good enough. Okay, so this, so the answers, so I explained this one, I was supposed to draw a diagram here, but anyways, we get 0 for that, so that means that it was the angle bisector, and we get that the value of question mark over here would be equal to 9. Yeah, okay. So try these problems on your own. You have 3 minutes, and you shall be doing it in a Jamboard because I want to see everyone participating. So in the Jamboard, which you can see in the chat, I sent it to everyone. So you should be able to see the Jamboard, and in it, basically take one slide. It will have the questions on them. And if you have any questions, put them on a sticky note.
It's view only.
Oh, okay. Let me just quickly change that. Okay. So. Okay, now you should be able to edit it now. No, so you should be doing your answers using like the pen over here. However, you should be putting any questions or anything that is not your work on a sticky note, so that like whenever I look at your slide, I'll be like, okay, this is something I need to answer, or this is something that's important. Are you guys able to edit it now? Again, reload the page if it's not. Yeah. Okay. So somebody just joined. So I shall resend the link to everyone. Okay, that person just left. So okay, it's okay if you're bad at writing. As long as I'm able to read it to an extent, it's fine. Okay, so please try to take like one of the first slides, so I don't have to like constantly look around. And make sure, I can see that 3 people are on the same slide, 4 people are on the, okay, 3 people are on the same slide. Make sure that unless, like, if you're the person who has your name on the slide, that is your slide. Everyone else, go to a different slide. Otherwise, that will be, I want to see you guys actually doing your work. So. Okay, so I see, okay, these 2 people on this slide, one of you should be Nikita, one of you probably isn't. The other person, please move to a different slide. Oh, okay, I do not know what the problem is if you have an iPad. See if you can access it from your computer if you have one nearby, and if you don't, you can in the chat type your answers, So on this.
Wait, so you just claim a slide and do it?
Yeah, you claim a slide and then you do your work on it. So it would be great.
Okay.
It would be great if everybody can do their work on one slide, like on their own slide, So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people have claimed their own slide. And there are 6 people here. Okay. So again, make sure that you have your own slide, that you're doing the work, So make sure that you're drawing a diagram. Use this little pen over here, and you can draw like a triangle. And, it will help you if you draw a diagram, because if you do not draw a diagram, you will not know what you're looking for, and even if you know what you're looking for, you can easily make a mistake if you do not draw a diagram. So again, draw a diagram. Okay. So for question number, so for both the questions, I expect you to show your work. Okay, wait, shoot. Okay, so number 2 is the same as one of the problems we did earlier. So just solve number 1. This should take like max 5 minutes. And I see one person use the shape feature thing, which you can use over here. So you can use the shapes if that helps. So for the person who messaged me in the chat that it's not working for them, on this you can see the Jamboard. And for the person who just joined, here's the link to the Jamboard. Make sure you're doing your work on it. And make sure you put your name on whatever frame you are using. Okay, that's good news if your internet is working. Okay, and just take a slide that hasn't been used. It would be great if you could take a slide that's if you could take slide 7 or 8, so everything's in the front of the presentation. So yeah. So I see, let's see, okay. So I see 2 people have started working. 3 people, 4 people. Okay. That's great if you are finished. But there are a lot of people who aren't, so yeah. And to the person who messaged me in the chat that the Jamboard wasn't working for them, here is the problem. So let ABC be a triangle with angle bisector AD with the D on line segment BC. If BD equals 2, CD equals 5, and AB plus AC is equal to 10, find AB and AC. And yeah. Okay, so I shall just look through people's answers. Okay, so I think we will wait 2 more minutes, and then I shall explain. So in the chat, the person who was unable to access the Jamboard, who was unable to edit it, please give me your answer in the chat. Okay, yeah. Okay, so right, that is not the final answer. You're also given that x plus y is equal to 10. So make sure, so that will also be important information for solving. Okay, so 2 minutes have passed, so I am going to start explaining. So let ABC, okay, so ABC with the angle bisector of AD on line segment with D on, okay, let ABC be a triangle with angle bisector AD with the D on line segment BC if BD is equal to 2 and CD is equal to 5 and AB over AC equals 10, find AB and AC. So the first step that most people did was they set up the ratios. So they said AB is equal to X, so X over 2 is equal to, and then AC is Y, so Y over 5, right? And then we know that X plus Y, okay, we know that X plus Y is equal to 10. So that means that we can solve for one of these, right? So let's say that X is equal to 10 minus Y because we do know that. So we get 10 minus Y over 2 is equal to Y over 5. And then we can multiply both sides by 10 and you get 50 minus Y is equal to 2Y. So that means that Y is, so 3Y will be equal to 50. And that means that 50 over 3 is equal to Y. 50 over 3 is equal to Y. And Y will be equal to AC. So that is AC. And then we know that they sum to 10. So that means, oh wait, sorry, oopsies. Sorry, we get 10. Okay, let me just undo that. Okay, sorry, that was wrong. Okay, so we get, so back to where we were here, right, where we were multiplying by 10, or yeah, 10. We get 10, sorry, we get 50 minus 5y is equal to 2y. So we add 5y to both sides and we get 7y is equal to 50. And then when we solve for y, we get 50 over 7. And 50 over 7 will therefore be AC because y was what we set for AC. So 50 over 7 is AC. And since we know that they add together, so 50 over 7 and x, or AB, add together to be 10, we get 20 over 7 is equal to AB. So that means that our answers are 20 over 7 for AB and 50 over 7 for AC. Does that make sense? Okay, I do not know if that makes sense to you guys. I do not see anything in the chat. Okay, so one person says it makes sense. But again, if it does not make sense to you, that's perfectly all right. Just tell me so that I can answer any questions you have. So 3 people said it makes sense, which is great. But again, if you have questions, ask me. You know, I'm not going to be able to answer questions I don't know you have. Yes, it's kind of like a system of equations when we're solving. Yeah, okay, so it's easy, like not easy, but there are other ways to do it. Like, you know, when you're solving it for that system of equations that you get, it's easy to solve it like different ways, solve that system of equations different ways. So yes. Okay, but if nobody has any questions, then I think I should continue because we do have a lot to cover. So I shall present. So okay, if it shall load. So basically, today we are going to also be covering midpoint formula, distance formula. Okay, x is not equal to y. So because we know that the ratios would be 2 to 5. So x would not be able to equal y. If that makes sense. Yeah. So we cannot set something equal to something else if we do not know it for sure, you know? So now that we are done with those examples, we shall be talking about Heron's formula. So basically, you may or may not have heard of this. So Heron's formula is basically using using the side lengths of a triangle, you will be able to find the area of the triangle. And on this slide are 2 videos to explain it. We will not be watching them in class. However, if you want to understand why it works, feel free to watch them on your own time. You know, they help explain it a lot. But anyways, Heron's formula is a way to find the area of any triangle. So so it states that the area of a triangle is S times S minus A times S minus B times S minus C, that whole thing square root. Yeah. So basically S is the semi-perimeter. So semi-perimeter is just the perimeter divided by 2. So A plus B plus C over 2. So we have A plus B plus C over 2 times A plus B plus C over 2 minus A times A plus B plus C over 2 minus B times A plus B plus C over 2 minus C. However, these it would be much easier to express it as A plus B plus C over 2 as a variable. So that's why we have S, or the semi-perimeter, as a variable in this. So A, B, and C are just the side lengths, and they do not have to be distinct, but they can be. And if they are not distinct, it also works. So let's try an example. So the perimeter of an equilateral triangle is 180 centimeters. Find the area of the triangle. And I know that we have covered how to find the area of a triangle using only one side length. However, try to solve it with Heron's formula. Okay, I shall write it on the screen, and hopefully that'll help. So radical, so I'm going to say S is equal to 1/2 of the, okay, that did not go. Okay, 1/2 of the perimeter, which I shall signify as B. So S times S minus A times S minus B times S minus C. Okay, so hopefully you guys can read this, but this is basically the equation. So S times S minus A times S minus B times S minus C, the whole thing under square root, and S is half the perimeter. So the perimeter of an equilateral triangle is 180 centimeters. Find the area of the triangle. So first you're going to have to find the length of each side, and then you're going to have to find half the perimeter. So in the chat, what is the side length of this equilateral triangle? Okay, yeah, it is 60. So 60 would mean that we get S times S minus 60 times S minus 60 times S minus 60. So what would S be? So in the chat. So again, remember S is half the perimeter. So yes, it would be 90, not 60, for the semi-perimeter, because 180 divided by 2. So 180 is the whole perimeter, divided by 2 is 90. So that means we would get 90 times 90 minus 60 times 90 minus 60 times 90 minus 60, which is just 30 cubed, square root. So that would mean we would get 30 out of the radical, right? Times 90 minus 90 times, times square root of 90 times 30. So we can take out 30 squared again, and we'll get 30 times 30, because we already have a 30 outside of the radical. So we get 30 times 30, and since we have divided by 30 squared, this whole thing, we get 3. So that means that our answer is 900 radical 3. Now, if we solve for the perimeter of an equilateral if we solve for the area of this equilateral triangle using the formula that we learned, we would get, so if we drew a diagram of this 30, 60, 90 triangle, right, we would get 60 as here, we would get 30 over here, and then we would get 30 radical 3 here, right? So that would mean that the height would be 30 radical 3 and the base would be 60. And then we divide it by 2. So 30 radical 3 times 60 is 1800 radical 3. And then divided by 2, we'd get 90 radical 3. So that means that this works for equilateral triangles also. So yes, we would get the area would be 900 radical 3 since the perimeter of using both ways, using both Heron's formula and the actual equation, right? So that means it works for equilateral triangles, but Heron's formula also works for all triangles. So make sure you watch the videos so you actually know why. And yeah, it would really help if you would watch the videos after class so you understand why it works, So the answer is 900 radical 3. So let's try another example. So find the area of a triangle with side lengths 13, 14, and 15. So use Heron's formula. So again, Heron's formula would be square, Okay, that did not work. So I shall explain it because you guys saw the answer. Sorry about that. However, so what would the perimeter be? First, solve for the perimeter. In the chat, everybody, what is the perimeter of this 13, 14, 15 triangle? So yes, I see lots of 42s. So the perimeter would be 42. Now what is 42 divided by 2? Or half the perimeter. Yes, it would be 21. So we get S is equal to 21. So now we find square root of 21 multiplied by, what is 21 minus 13? In the chat, what is 21 minus 13? 8, yes. So I see lots of 8s. Someone said 18. I think you might have made a typo. Yeah. Okay. Now 21 minus 14 would just be 1 less than 8, or 7. Then 21 minus 15 would be 6, right? So when we find the square root of this, we get, we get 21 here, and then this is 21 times 2, right? So we can take out this 21, right? So we take out these 21s, and we get 21 radical 8 times 2, which is radical 16, right? So we get 21 radical 16. 21 times radical 16 is equal to 21 times 4, which is 84, right? So that means the area is 84. But how would we check this? So actually, this is composed of right triangles. So we have 13, we have 12, and we have 5, and then we have Right. Okay. So we have 15, which is 5 times 3, 4 times 3, 2 times 3. Okay. So we get, so these would be two right triangles, right? Which we would have just put next to each other with a height of 12 and a base of 14. So we would do 12 times 14 divided by 2, which is also equal to 7 times 14, which is also 84, which is our answer, which we got from Heron's formula. So when we check this, we see that we still get the same answer. So that means Heron's formula works again, which is something that we have already established. But just to check it for that example. Yeah. So again, does anyone have any questions? And if not, again, please in the chat say. Okay, so people have no questions. So I'm assuming that everyone has no questions. Okay, the answer is 84, not 84 square root 3. Yeah. Make sure you're not confusing Heron's formula with the formula for the area of an equilateral triangle, since the area of an equilateral triangle formula only works for an equilateral triangle, while this formula works for all triangles. So this just shows us. Okay, so Heron's formula, problem 1. So back to the point system. So problem 1, so you will get points for asking questions, for solving, and for, yeah. So basically, using, okay, wait, sorry. Find the area of NOH. So, okay, yeah. So find the area of NOH, given that NJO is a 90-degree angle, and that NO is one of the sides of NOH. So for this question, you can use a calculator. So yes, if you want to use a calculator, you can use it. Okay, so I shall just have the score up in the chat. So again, find the area of triangle NOH. So you can either answer the whole question, and I will take the time that you answered the question at, or you can in the chat type out your what you would do, like the steps you would do, or you can unmute and tell me the steps that you would do. And I will take okay. So someone in the chat said NO is okay. So someone said the answer is 48. And okay, yeah. So okay, so someone already got it right, so good job to Shreya. And good job to Charles, who is also who typed oh sorry. Okay, so good job to Shreya, who answered it correctly. I think I'm gonna give you 2 points because that was really quick. So yeah. Okay, so find the area of NOH. So first, what we do is we use the Pythagorean theorem to find this side, right? This side is 6 squared plus 8 squared, which is 10, right? So now we can do radical, and then we find half of the perimeter, which would be equal to 18, right? So we do radical 18 times 18 minus 10, which is 8, and we multiply that by 18 minus 10, which is another 8, and then we multiply it by 18 minus 2, which is 18 minus 16, which is 2, and we get 9, so we get radical 9 times 8 squared times 2 squared, because we have, 2 from here times 2, right? So we get 3 times 8 times 2, which is equal to 48. So that means that our answer for the area of triangle NOH is 48. So yes, so Shreya got it right. So in the chat, for the people who did not answer, what questions do you have? Okay. It's 18 times 8 times 8 times 2. So it would be 18, which is half the perimeter. Oops. Okay, so we would get, wait a moment. Okay, so we would get 6, 8, and 10, right? So 10, because this is the Pythagorean theorem. Because we know that angle J is a 90-degree angle. Yeah. So we're using multiple concepts that we have learned to solve this problem, right? So yes, 18 minus 10 would be 8, 18 minus 16, 2, and 18 minus 10, 8. And then we multiply those together and then multiply it by 18, and we get our, and then we square root the whole thing, and then we get the answer. So the area of the triangle would be 48. So yes, good job to everyone who solved. Okay. Yes, so problem 2. Glenna's is fencing off her triangular range. The three sides are 123, 150, and 155 meters. What is the area of his range to the nearest tenth? So for this problem, you're going to need a calculator. So you can like pull up decimals or something if you do not have a calculator next to you. And if you do have a calculator next to you, that is also great, you know. So you would find the semi-perimeter, which, you know, hopefully, you know, is half of the perimeter. So 123 plus 150 plus 155 divided by 2 would be equal to the semi-perimeter. And then you would multiply that by the semi-perimeter minus these side lengths. Yes, so I see that one person has given an answer, but again, make sure, wait, okay, so I think you messed up a bit. Make sure that you're doing half the perimeter minus the side lengths and not the whole perimeter minus the side lengths when solving. Otherwise, your answer is going to be incorrect. So again, yeah. Okay, so make sure, and also when you solve it, make sure that your answer is rounded to the nearest 10. So I had someone rounded to the nearest 100, and someone gave me a negative answer. Again, remember that it's the area, so it's going to be positive, you know, so again, make sure, yeah. If you're getting an answer that seems wrong, like an answer that is like very tiny or negative, then you know it's probably going to be wrong. So yeah. Okay. So I see 2 people have answered. So far this is the score. Yeah. Okay. So the area of the range to the nearest tenth is 8575.2, right? So we do S is equal to 214, and then we plug these values into Heron's formula. 214 minus 155 times 214 minus 150 times 214 minus 123 times 214 is just equal to 8575.2 when you round it. So you should have gotten 8575.2, which is the answer I saw for most people, except for the people who rounded incorrectly, which again, make sure you're not rounding incorrectly. That is a very bad mistake to make because, you know, we do it all the time. So it is, okay, so would you guys rather do more problems, or would you rather cover the distance formula or midpoint formula? So in the chat, would you rather do, okay, so I have one person saying they'd rather do distance formula than continue doing the problems, which I'm fine with. Other people in the chat, would you rather continue doing problems, or would you rather, move on to the distance formula? Okay, so lots of people had said nothing. Yeah, okay, or lots of people had said no opinion. However, some people have said that they want to do distance formula. So, okay, yeah, I probably should give you guys a break. Yeah, oopsies. Okay, so we have 5 minutes of break, so I shall pause the recording. Distance formula. So what is distance formula? So distance formula is basically the Pythagorean theorem, but on the coordinate plane. You will be able to find the distance between 2 points, P1 and P2, using it. So let's quickly look at the Pythagorean theorem. So for any right triangle, a squared plus b squared is c squared. So a squared, b squared, c squared. So for example, let's solve for c. What is c in this right triangle?
C is a 13.
Correct. So
And we can place that we can place C as the distance between P1 and P2 and use Pythagorean theorem.
Right. So that is what the distance formula is. That you can place C as the distance between P1 and P2. So for here, C is 13. So let's look at the example on the right. What are the coordinates of P1 and P2? So some of you may not know much algebra. However, I think you should be able to figure out the coordinates. So the coordinates would be the x coordinates. So x would be here. So x is along the x-axis, and then comma, and then the y coordinate. So for example, if I had a point right here, then the x coordinate would be -3, right? And then the y coordinate would be 4. So that would mean that a point right here would be 3, 4. So I see many people in the chat are saying -2, 1 for P1, and then it's okay. So so P2 is 4, 1.5. Someone in the chat said 4.5, 1. Remember, the point is on the 4, so we know that it's 4. However, it is not exactly on. It's like halfway between the 1 and the 2, so it's going to be 1.5. So that means the coordinates are -2, -1, and 4, 1.5. So let's draw a triangle. So the legs of the right triangle, if we were to draw a right triangle with P1 to P2 as the hypotenuse, would have a horizontal leg of what length? So what is the length of this in the chat? Yeah. Okay, so I see one person with the correct answer. Is anyone else going to say what the length of this is? Okay, so this is 6. So Nikita got it first for the 6, and then 2.5 is the height. So Charles, you get a point. Oops. Okay, so yes, this is 2.5 and this is 6. So we are going to solve for the hypotenuse, right? So okay, wait, oops, sorry. Oh, oops, okay, sorry about that. So we get 6 and 3, as we said earlier. Okay, so we get 6 and 2.5, sorry, not 6 and 3. So 6 and 2.5 Using the Pythagorean theorem, we get 6 squared plus 2.5 squared to the square root is equal to square root 36 plus 6.25, which is square root 42.25, which is equal to 13 over 2, or 6.5. Oh yeah, whoops. Okay, I can't keep score. Okay, so that means that the length of P1 to P2 is equal to 6.5, or 13 over 2. So that's basically using the Pythagorean theorem on the actual coordinate plane. So just so you know the actual formula, it's x2 minus x1, so the horizontal distance squared, plus y2 minus y1, or the vertical distance squared, and then the square root of that whole thing to find P1 to P2. So now that we know that, we can solve a few problems. So what is the perimeter of the square? Type in the chat what you would do to solve this problem. So in the chat, how would you solve this problem? Not the answer, but how would you solve it? Yes, okay, find the coordinates. And use the Pythagorean theorem and find the distance between each side. Okay, so good job in the chat to everyone who answered my question. Okay, so yeah, add and then subtract the coordinates. So yeah, so we find the coordinates. So over here, we'd find the red points, right? So this is, so what is the coordinate of this? What is the coordinate of B? So in the chat, type, what is the coordinate of B? Okay, yeah, Nikita, good job. So it is -2, 3. So that means that, okay, so this would be -2, 3. Now everyone in the chat, what would the coordinates of A be? So, okay, -5, 1. So good job, Charlotte and Nikita. Okay, so we find these coordinates. So we'd need to find the length of the side of the square, and to do that, we need to find the coordinates, which would be -5, -1, and -2, 3. So that means that the vertical distance would be equal to 4, because when we find the distance between this and this, we find it to be 4. So what would the horizontal distance be? In the chat, what would the horizontal distance be? Not the actual length, but the horizontal distance. The horizontal distance. From left to right, what would the distance be? Yeah, okay, good job, yeah. So, to the people who in the chat typed their answers, yes, it would be 3. So the hypotenuse would be 5. So that would mean that we would get 4, 3, and then we'd use the Pythagorean theorem and get 5 for the side length. And then we're told that this is a square. So that means that all the sides have the same length. So we just do 5 times 4. So what would the answer be? Yeah, the answer would be 20. So good job to everyone who answered. So currently this is the score. Wait, I don't think. Okay, yeah, that is the score so far. So we get radical 25 for the side length. 5 multiplied by 4 is, 25, or it's 20. So, would you guys rather do problems, or would you rather figure out the midpoint formula? Would you rather do the midpoint formula? In the chat. Okay. So one person said midpoint formula, one person said continue. 2 people said midpoint formula. 2 people want to do distance, 2 people want to do midpoint. So for the people who are there, other people, please in the chat say which one you'd rather do. Okay. So I'm going to assume that's everyone, and because we are running short on time and because you will be able to do the problems by yourself, I think that we should continue with, we should do midpoint formula because you will be able to ask questions that you have on midpoint formula if you do it. So what is the midpoint formula? So the midpoint formula is used to find a point that is right in the middle of two other points. So before we go over what the midpoint formula is, type what number is halfway between 16 and 22. So in the chat, what number is halfway between 16 and 22? So everybody in the chat, what number is halfway between 16 and 22? So I have gotten 2 answers. Okay, that's okay. Okay, so those are the 2 people to answer. Okay, so what number is halfway between 16 and 22? It would be 19. So to find what number is halfway, you just add them together. So 22 plus 16, which is 38, and then you divide by 2. So 38 divided by 2 is 19. So you get 19 is halfway between those numbers. Okay, that's okay if you have issues. So the answer would be 19, as said earlier. So to do this, yeah, you'd find the average. Okay, so now let's try to use, so yes, we are averaging to find the midpoint of each of these points. So now let's try to use this on points in the coordinate plane. So what point is halfway between 2, 5 and -4, -3? So in the chat, type your answer. So again, remember, we're just going to be finding what number is halfway between the x coordinates and what number is halfway between the y coordinates. So in the chat, what number would be halfway between 2 and -4? Okay, remember to divide by 2. Okay, yeah, so Nikita got the point, and Wanda also did. So yeah. Okay, so what we would do is we would do -4 plus 2, and we would get -2, right? Would be the sum of -4 and 2, and we divide it by 2 to find what number would be halfway between them. So we'd get -1 is halfway between the x coordinates, and then we add 5 and -3, and we get 2. And we divide it by 2, and we find 1 for halfway between the y coordinates. So we get -1, 1 as the point halfway between these points. So good job to everyone who answered. So let's try another example. Point A has coordinates 1, -3, and the midpoint of the midpoint of the line AB is -1, 1. What are the coordinates of B? We cannot average the points to find the answer because the midpoint is given to us. Instead, we need to find point B. So, in the chat, what would be the answer? Okay, so in the chat, I see 2 people got it correct. So, okay, let me just update the score. Okay, so let's draw a diagram to do this. So we see that this is the midpoint and this is A. So in order for the purple dot to be the midpoint, the difference in the x coordinates of the midpoint and point A must be equal to the difference between the difference of the x coordinates of midpoint and point B. So that must occur for the y coordinates too. So in other words, the x difference here must be equal to the x difference here, and sorry, that should have said y difference. And then the y difference, the x difference here should have been equal to the x difference here. So that means that we get this is our line AB, right? So that means -3, 5 would be our point. So b is -3, 5. So how do we do this without graphing? Obviously, you can't draw an entire graph during an actual test. So to solve this without graphing, you do midpoint minus point A to find the difference in coordinates. Then you add that difference to the midpoint to find point B. It's the same thing we did on the graph, but without a graph. So for our question, midpoint minus point A would be -1, 1 minus 1, -3. So the difference would be -2, 4. We'd add this to -2. We'd add -2, 4, which is the different distance traveled, to -1, 1, which is our midpoint, and we would get our point B to be -3, 5. So here are some midpoint formula problems. So would you okay, okay. Would you guys rather do the problems, or would you guys rather do the Desmos activity, which also has problems on it? And remember, when you're doing the coordinate points, you have to put your parentheses around it. Otherwise, it's not going to be a coordinate point, you know? Okay, yeah. So I have 1 correct answer, 2 correct answers, 3 correct answers. So good job, Charles and Nikita. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, so basically when we have a midpoint, right? So let me just draw this. So when we have a midpoint, we take the midpoint minus the coordinate, right? So minus one of the end points, right? And we get, for example, if this is -2, 5, and this is 7, 3, right? Remember that, yeah, okay, we'd find the midpoint minus the endpoint, and remember this is not equal to this because this would be the endpoint in that case, and this would be the midpoint, right? We would find the difference between this, so -2 to 7 would be -9, right? And then 5 minus 3 is -2. So we do -9 plus -2, which is -11, and then -2 plus 5, which is equal, and then 2 plus 5, which is 7. So then we would get -11, 7. And again, it would be great if you guys could number your questions, like number the problems. So yeah. Okay, so I have gotten answers for all questions, at least 2 answers for each question. So I think I should go ahead and explain. Okay, right? So for this first problem over here, we find the midpoint of the following pairs. So we do 7 plus 3 divided by 2. So that's just 10 divided by 2, which is 5. Then we do 1 plus 5 divided by 2, which is 6 over 2, which is 3. So we get 5, 3 for our answers. Okay, then for number 2, we do 3 plus -1, which is 2, and then divided by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. Then we do 5 plus 2 divided by 2, which is equal to 7 over 2, or 3.5. So that means we get 1, 3.5 for our answers. And also remember, if you are not done yet, but you are still solving like questions I have not gone over yet, you can still continue to solve them and put your answers in the chat. Okay, so if the first coordinate is the endpoint and the second is the midpoint, find the other endpoint. So we do 7, 3 minus -2, 5, and then we get 9, -2. So we would add that to the midpoint, and we'd get 16, because 9 plus 7 is 16, and then negative 2 added to 3 is equal to 1. So 16 comma 1 would be our answer. And then for number 4, we would get so the midpoint minus the endpoint. So 6 minus negative 3 is equal to 9, right? And then we do 7 minus negative 6, which is equal to 13, right? So we add 9 comma 13 to the midpoint, and then we get 15 comma 20 as our answer. So those would be our answers. Yeah. Okay. So does anyone have any questions? In the chat or unmute, please tell me if you have or do not have any questions. Can you guys? Okay. Okay, yeah, that's good. So in the chat, everyone, tell me if you do or don't have questions. Okay. That's okay. So no questions. So that would just okay. So just to review, angle bisector theorem. In triangle ABC, if D lies on BC and AD bisects BAC, then AB over BD equals AC over CD. Then for Heron's formula, if for a triangle with side lengths A, B, and C, where S is equal to half A plus B plus C, square root of half the perimeter, or S, multiplied by S minus A, multiplied by S minus B, multiplied by S minus C is the area. And then for distance formula, for 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2, square root of the difference between the x's squared plus the difference between the y's squared is the distance between them. And then the midpoint formula is half of the sum of the x's, comma half the sum of the y's is equal to the midpoint between 2 points. So we did have an activity planned, however, it is 11:29. But it would be great if after class, whenever you get time, you would be able to do this. So in the chat, I shall put the link, right? So you can go there, and I will be able to see if, like, how far you are. And if you have any questions after class, you will be able to contact me. And also in the Google Classroom, yeah, I will put it on the Google Classroom, and I'll also put the Kahoot as a activity that you can do on your own time, so that you know, you can get more practice. So I'll put this on the Google Classroom. Does anyone have any questions? If not, I will end the recording, and feel free to leave.